Hello everybody and welcome. This is the Shy Hat, that's my name, and we're doing HackerFrogs AfterSchool extra credit today. Today we're going to be doing the extra credit associated with web app hacking session number 3. Today we're going to be focusing on OS command injection. So I hope everybody is here to see that. Ilhan Andrews says, can't wait to solve it together as a team. Okay, so I was talking about going over the PicoCTF 2024 event challenges together after the event ends, which is going to be on Tuesday the 26th. So that means that we might be able to do the stream where we solve the challenges together potentially on the 27th, which is the Wednesday, March 27th. So I'll be putting together a notification and sending that out there later. So yeah, so that's gonna be a lot of fun to everybody out there who is solving the PicoCTF 2024 challenges. It's been a lot of fun, and there have been a lot of challenges, some easy, some not so easy. And hopefully everybody's been learning a lot about new technologies. All right, so today we're going to be going over some OS command injection. So let's go over what OS command injection is before we move on with that. To everybody who is here, we're going to be making use of the TryHackMe educational platform, more specifically the DVWA room on there. So I will leave a link to that in the chat before we move on. Okay, so the room for the TryHackMe room is in the chat. If you don't have an account over at tryhackme.com, you're going to need to make an account over there to participate in today's session. Fortunately, the TryHackMe room is free, so you don't necessarily have to pay for a subscription to be able to work alongside with us. Okay, so we're talking about OS command injection. So what is that? It's web app vulnerability where arbitrary OS commands can be performed on the web server through a web interface. So OS command injection can lead to complete compromise of the web server, and if so, the server can be used as a foothold to attack other machines on the network. So we're going to demonstrate how attackers can access a web server that has an OS command injection vulnerability on it a little bit later. So please look forward to that. But before that, let's move on to the TryHackMe room that we're going to be working through today. This room is called DVWA. And that stands for Damned Vulnerable Web Application. And so this is actually kind of an older app that's been used to teach web app security for quite a long time. The oldest mention of it that I can find occurs sometime in 2018, which was quite a while ago as far as web app security is concerned. But despite that, there's a lot of things that students can learn from the DVWA app. So let's start it up. So under task 1, you're going to want to click on the Start Machine button over here. So you can just click on that. I noticed that that TryHackMe has changed its visual design somewhat. These buttons are a bit brighter than I remember them being. So this is going to take a little bit to start up. You're also going to want to start up your attack box machine as well. And you can, I guess the Start Attack Box button has changed as well. So you're going to want to click on this button over here that says Start Attack Box. And that's going to split the browser pane in two with the original TryHackMe webpage on the left-hand side and the attack box virtual machine on the right-hand side. So we're just going to wait a little bit for that. So, if anybody is interested in more literature about OS command injection, there is a great article about it on portsbooger.net, the Web App Security Academy. I will leave the link for that in the chat. Ilana just says, I will follow along. So by follow along, do you mean you're going to be doing the exercise with us, or are you just going to be watching and observing? I'm not too sure what that means. So I'd like to say apologies for missing the stream on Wednesday. I was feeling a little bit under the weather at that point. I'm still not completely better, but I'm feeling a little bit better. Well, good enough to not be hacking up a lung, so that's nice. Virtual machine in TryHackMe. So yes, this is the ideal way to follow along with HackerFrogs sessions, right? Okay, so once we have our attack box initialized over here, we're going to want to click on this button right here, which says View in Full Screen, which we will do, and that's going to put our virtual machine in its own browser pane. Browser tab rather. Which allows us to go back over here and then close out this split view over here. And we can do that by clicking on this button right here, which is labeled Exit Split View. Okay then. Okay, so now that we have our DVWA virtual machine all spun up, we see that the target IP address is over here. We can copy that, and then we can go to our attack box. So if you see a pop-up and asking if you want to allow allow permissions to this particular tab, please say yes, so that you're able to do copy and paste from the clipboard. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit difficult at some points. Okay, so we're going to need to open up our Firefox web browser on the attack box. And then from there, we can paste in the IP address and then enter it in. And from there, that gets us access to the DVWA application. Okay, so this application has a bunch of different intentionally vulnerable web pages. So to log in from here, we need to supply the username admin and the password as password, P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D, and then we can log in. Oh, it says login failed. Okay, so let me look up the credentials, right? So it's admin pass. Wow, I thought did I type it in wrong? So admin password. One more time. Okay, now we're in. Okay, so let me explain how the format of the Damn Vulnerable Web App, the DVWA, works. So it's a PHP MySQL web application that is damn vulnerable, rather that its main goal is to be an aid in security professionals to test their skills. So the great thing about this web application right here is that there are a bunch of web pages right here that we can use to test and experiment with certain web app vulnerabilities, such as brute forcing, command injection, CSRF, file inclusion, file upload. The list goes on and on. There's a bunch of different topics over here. If you have some free time, I highly recommend going through here and taking a look at all the topics over here. So the interesting thing about this is that inside of this app, you can set the level of security, rather the difficulty of the challenges, by going down to this tab right here called DVWA Security. So you want to click on that because the security level in this room starts off at security level impossible, which means that you're not going to be able to solve any of the challenges while the security level is set to this level right here. So after you've accessed security.php, you'll want to go here to this drop-down tab and change that from impossible to any of the other difficulties. We'll set it to low right now, and then we'll click on submit. And that's going to set the security level to low. And from there, we can go on our merry way and start testing our command injection skills over here. So over here, it says command injection. So just click on that. So it's going to be the endpoint is going to be /vulnerabilities/exe. So right there. So we have the vulnerability command injection right here, and the prompt over here says ping a device. So if we ping a device, we have to enter an IP address. So for example, if we wanted to try to ping the localhost, so it would be 127.0.0.1 and submit that. Okay, and it says, so it got a bunch of pings. So to people who know Linux, this looks very similar to what the ping tool outputs when it is used. So that gives an indication that this application right here might be utilizing the underlying OS, which in this case means that there is a potential for command injection, for OS command injection. So the great thing another great thing about the DVWA is it also provides you with the source code for any of the pages that are involved. So you can click on View Source, and here it says, so this is the low security version of this page right here. So this is a bunch of PHP code right here. So what it does is that it does the shell exec function ping on the target, and then it this is what it does for Windows. For Unix, it does ping-c 4 on the target, and it's going to echo the output of that command to the web server, so for us to see the output. So if we know that it's using ping, this is the command that's being utilized, how can we potentially try to break out of this and run our own commands? So anybody in the chat is welcome to give their advice for how we can perform our OS command injection attack on this page right here. So what would we do? Do you remember from the last workshop how we broke out of the command to perform our own commands? So I suppose we could also ask our good friend ChatGPT by using change directory, says Ilhan. The question is, what special characters would we use to break out of the current Linux command and try to start our own commands? There are a couple of different Linux command symbols that we could try using. Okay, so our good friend over here has given us a good indication of what we could try. We test for injection. We inject special characters commands into the input fields to see if the server executes them. Common characters to try include this semicolon right here, or we could also try the double and, which is perform the first command and perform the second command. And we also see here that there is the pipe character, and also backticks, and try injecting simple commands like ls, dir, or who am I. So, going back to the application right here, going back to the application right here, what could we try sending to the web application to have it run our commands as opposed to the ping command? So if you remember from our good friend ChatGPT, we can just use the semicolon right there. And then what we also want to try, if we can use the semicolon, we also want to try using the quote, rather the hashtag over here, to comment out any commands that, any content that runs after the command. So in this case, we can cut the command short by using the semicolon, and then afterwards we can inject our own command. So in this case, we would use who am I. So in this case, we're running this semicolon is going to stop the previous command, and then we run who am I, and then we do the hash to comment out the rest of the command. So if we click on submit, we get the answer www.data, which is the default account username for web pages on a Linux server. So that's great. So let's try out the other methods as well. So if we wanted to do and, so the double ampersand symbol right there. So this is going to run both of these commands at once. I'm not too sure whether or not this is going to work in this case, but we can try. And then we can run the command, say, host name. And that's going to, if this works, it's going to return the name of the computer. So of course we're going to try to comment this out by using the hash up there. And when we click on submit, okay, so that didn't work. It's probably because it doesn't work because the and operator only works if the first command doesn't come back with errors. So the problem is that the ping command is not complete, so it's going to come back with errors. So the second command doesn't execute. But we can fix this by doing who am I like this. And what we need to do is we need to supply an actual end to the ping command. So we can submit an actual IP address, and then we can do and then who am I, and then both of these, the output of both of these commands should come back to us. So when we click on submit, so we see the output of the ping command over here, and because it finished without errors, then the second command executes as well and shows that we are www.data. Of course, we were trying to do hostname, weren't we? So we can send this again, but instead of who am I, we can do hostname. And we can submit that. And we see that the host name for this system right here is just the IP address of the system. Okay, which is good. We got our feedback, and that's great. Okay, so let's try ramping up the difficulty of this a little bit. So we do that by going back to the sorry. Before we move on, So if you managed to finish this this level 1 of OS command injection and you were able to have the server run your commands, please type level 1 and then some smiley faces for me. Just like this. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, great. I thought I had the mic muted, but it turns out I didn't. Okay, so let's move on to level 2 then. So level 2, of course, we can go back to DBWA security over here, this button right here, and then we can set the security from low to medium. So we switch it over to medium, click on submit, and then we can go back to the command injection page over here. Okay, so we can try the previous methods that that we did, and we can see if they work. We can just do who am I, and we can submit that, and we can see that that it doesn't go through. We can use this method and see if this works. And that also doesn't go through. Okay, so our commands aren't working right now. So what we can do is we can look over at the source code for this level. Okay, so the problem is there's a substitution function being run on our input right here. So if we try to run any characters which are and over here, it becomes an empty string. And the same thing with the semicolon right here. So if we try to run a command with the semicolon right there, it becomes an empty string inside of the app. So how can we defeat this? So if you have any suggestions, go ahead and type them in chat. Otherwise, so this is an instance of what is called input sanitization. Input sanitization is where if a web application or any program receives any characters that it doesn't like, then it will substitute those characters for something else. In this case, some empty string over here, which means we aren't able to perform our attack as usual. But I'm curious if ChatGPT can solve our question for us. If there's a substitution function going on right here. So I'm going to copy this, then we're going to go to our good friend. Okay, so let's see. So it says white space characters. We could try using white space characters to separate commands or break up blocked sequences. Instead of and, you might try and then pipe, or even introducing white space between characters to bypass detection. Case sensitivities. Check if the sanitization functions are case sensitive. If it is not, you might be able to bypass using variations of block characters. For instance, instead of and try That's interesting. I didn't know that you could do this. Oh, you can also do encoding. So you can try URL encoding or concatenation. So there's a lot of useful suggestions right here. But one interesting thing that we have to take note of is even though the and the semicolon are being sanitized, it doesn't indicate anything about the pipe character, which is another very common way that that command injection is performed. Okay, so what we can do is we can use the pipe character, and the double pipe character, if you know your Linux, is the or character. So it basically does A or B, command A or command B. So in this case, we can use double pipe, and then we can do who am I, and then we can supply our hash to comment out everything else. I don't think we need to do the hash to comment everything out because there's nothing that that happens afterwards. Let me check the source one more time. So just ping for target. So yeah, we don't even need to do the hash to comment stuff out. Okay, so we don't need that. We do need to spell who am I correctly though. So pipe who am I, and in this case it's going to do the ping, or it's going to do who am I. And because the ping command isn't written correctly, it can't run. So it's probably going to run the who am I command instead. And once more, we get www data. I want to try something out. So let's see what happens if we double up on these characters right here. And in this case, we need to so if my hypothesis is correct, then the server is going to strip away. It might strip away just one set of these and double ampersand symbols, and it might leave the other ones behind, but it might not. So it does strip away everything. Okay. All right. So in this case, we've used the double ampersand, the double pipe character to send an or command to the OS, to the Linux OS, which lets us execute our commands. All right, so we can also use this to do any other types of enumeration we want to do. Of course, one thing that a lot of people use to make sure that they have access to a server through things like command injection is to cat out the following directory right here, which is etc password, which lets us read the username accounts, the user account names on the system. So we can run this, and that lets us see all of the different user accounts on the system. Okay, great. Okay, so everybody, if you manage to take advantage of the medium difficulty and run your commands, please type medium is done, just like this. And I found a new emote for on Twitch that we could potentially use over at the HackerFrogs channel, which is the OS Frog emote, which is just a frog face. And we're all about frogs over here. Okay, great. Nice to see it. Okay, so one more time, we're going to go down to DVWA security over here, and we're going to change the difficulty of the page. We're going to go from medium to hard, just over here. And we're going to click on submit one more time. Okay, so the security level is high. So we can go back to the command injection page over here. And we have to ping a device, enter an IP address. So let's try that one more time. So if we try this, and then we ask who am I? Why did this work? We are in high, aren't we? Okay, strange. Okay, let's take a look at the source for this one over here. So this one has a more stringent set of what is it? Sanitizations over here. The filter. So it's basically, if you include the and symbol, the semicolon, the pipe, the minus sign, the dollar sign, any of these, then it's going to make these all it's going to make all of these blank over here, including. That's strange. It should have filtered the double pipe, but it didn't for some reason. Okay, so we're going to close this out. So I did double pipe space who am I, or double pipe space host name. It's really strange how this this code basically didn't work. Oh, you know what? It's let me take a look at the source code one more time. Okay, but anyways, so the other way that we can avoid triggering the filtering mechanism on this page is we can also do what we leave no space in between the semicolon and the command that we want to run. Oh, now it doesn't. Now it works. Okay, that's interesting. This is more curious and more curious still. Okay. Okay, so, but I think we can use the pipe character and who am I? I think for some reason I think you can just use the pipe character in general to get past this this filter right here. That's strange. Okay, so now that we've come across the all three difficulty levels for this command injection, if you've managed to access run commands on all three of these, please type trifecta and then our good friend HackerFrogs. Okay, great. Okay, so now we're going to do a demonstration of how you can access a server. You can access the server. Basically, you can hack into a server by using OS command injection. So first of all, we're going to take our DWA security back down to low, just so it's less of a headache to craft these payloads. So we're going to set the security to low, and then click on submit. And then we're going to go back to our command injection page. So if we want to hack into the server and we want to have the server give us access to it, what we need to do is we need to set up a reverse shell connection. So a reverse shell connection is basically setting up a listener on our own attack box over here that listens for an incoming connection from the vulnerable web server. So to do that, we can just we can just minimize our Firefox window because we're going to be going back to it later, and then we can create a terminal over here. I'm going to make this a little bigger for us to see. Hopefully that's big enough. And we're going to set up a listener on our attack box by using the netcat program. So in this case, we're going to use netcat nc and then nlvp. So when we execute this command, it's going to create a netcat listener, which is basically a connection on our device, which is available on a specific port. Actually, no, it's not. Yeah. And we also have to specify a specific port to open up on our machine. So in this case, we're going to use 443, and port 443 is associated with HTTPS traffic, which means it's usually on the allow list for even on servers which don't allow connections on most port numbers. So when we set this up, that means that our device is going to be listening for a connection from the vulnerable web server. So you run this, and it's running on 443. NLVP, I think L is for listening, V is for verbose, P is for the specific port, and the other one I'm not completely sure. But we can look that up later if you have questions about it. So we have our netcat listener on our attack box listening on port 443. So we can go back to the web application over here, and we can craft a payload for this particular app, which lets us have access to it. Okay, so we do the semicolon, which cancels out the command, and then we can use one of many different reverse shell one-liner commands. And so it's basically sending a command. It's basically having the web server execute a command on it, which connects to our device. And there are a lot of different reverse shell one-liners on a website called Pentest Monkey. I think it's .net. Is it .org? It's .net, I think. And on here, reverse shell cheat sheet. So basically, depending on what programs are available on the web server, you can try to use one of these commands to get a reverse shell connection from it to your attacker machine. So depending on whether or not, well, there's going to be Bash, but it doesn't always work. If there's Perl on the system, or Python, or PHP, or Ruby, or Netcat, or any of these different programs, you might be able to use one of these commands to get a reverse shell connection on your attacker machine. So I'll leave this cheat sheet, the link for this cheat sheet in the chat for you to take a look at if you like. So earlier I was trying out a bunch of different reverse shell commands to get access to this particular server here. And you'll find that it's basically a lot of experimentation, whether or not some of these reverse shell one-liner commands are going to work or not. But in this case, we were able to take advantage of netcat on the vulnerable server to get a reverse shell connection. So I'm going to go back to here. And let's explain what the command is that we're running over here. So the command is rm/tmp/f. So this is going to remove, if there's a file called f in the temporary directory, it's going to delete it. And then the next part of the command is to do this. FIFO, which creates a pipe, which creates a file pipe to a particular file. And in this case, we're going to make it to our temporary file inside of the temp directory called f. And then we're going to read that that file, cat/tmp/f, and then we're going to pipe the output of that command into bin/sh, which is the shell command, -i for interactive, and then we're going to give some input commands over here. So I think it's 2 for input and 1 for, gotta type it 1 by 1. That's correct. So I'm going to be providing this command in the chat in just a little bit. So the next part is to do netcat connection, and what we need to do is we need to get the address for our attack box. So our attack box IP address is located over here. So you're going to need to copy that. And remember that your attack box IP is not going to be the same as my attack box IP. And then space, and then we're going to have to supply the listener port. And if you remember, the listener port for what we set up on our box was 443. Lastly, we need to pipe that we need to redirect all that output to the temp f file over here. It's a bit convoluted, and I'm not 100% sure of all the details happening there. But if you run this command, you should be able to get access. So I'm going to try running this. First, I'm going to check this for any spelling errors. Okay, so we run this. We got a connection, but then it booted us immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try again. Okay, can't access TTY job control turned off. I wonder what the issue is over here. I have another version of the command, and I'm just going to do a copy paste of it. Okay, it looks like my music turned off. I'm going to turn it back on. Okay. Oops, that's not what I wanted to copy. Hold on. Maybe I need to copy it by hand. Okay, so oh wait, I typed in the command wrong in the first place, I think. Okay, that's a bit embarrassing. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, what was my... Oops, it's 36.127, and then 443. Okay, let me copy this. Okay, so you can see that by the way that the web page is hanged over here, that the payload actually worked. Okay, so I'm going to I'll leave the so I've copied the payload to the chat. Please replace the IP address of my box with the IP address of your attack box. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, so going back here, so we had our netcat listener listening on port 443, and then we sent the command from the vulnerable web server, and then it reached out to our attack box and gave us a connection to the web server. So we know this because if we do who am I, we're www.data, and if we do hostname, we are at this IP address right here. Okay. So this is pretty good. Now we have access to the web server. And from here we could do all sorts of malicious stuff if we really wanted to. Normally, when we get onto a new box, we go to the home directory and we see if there's any if there are any users on the system. We see there's one called Ubuntu. But there's nothing here. So this is basically the worst case scenario of OS command execution on a web application, that people can use it to gain access directly to the web server itself, and that's why OS command injection is a very serious vulnerability that that people should be aware of. All right, so we're going to be ending off our stream soon, but if you manage to get access to the web server directly, please type I'm in the chat, followed by the cool cat emote, maybe with the OS frog, just like this. So if this were like a CTF box, there'd probably be some flag files to look for, but in this case, it's not really built for that. But the important thing is that we're able to experiment with stuff like this. And if we wanted to, actually, you know what? We can go over to the. I don't know if we have right permissions in the web app directory, but we can check. So the web app directory is usually going to be www/ var, I think it's var/www/html. You learned about netcat NLVP 443 today. Okay, so yeah, so it's basically the way that that attacker. It's a classic way that attackers doing network hacking try to gain access to other systems. So basically, what you need to do is set up the netcat listener on a specific port, and then have the vulnerable server or machine send the reverse shell one-liner back to your attacker machine. So -LA. So unfortunately, this directory, we can't necessarily copy anything to this directory right here. Oh, but there is a robots.txt file right here, which I didn't know about. Let's see if there's anything juicy in there. Okay, it doesn't tell you anything. Great. Okay, so, all right, so let me get out of here. So back to the DVWA. If you are interested in learning about different web app vulnerabilities, or if you just wanted to to learn about them, for example, what is if you wanted to learn about file upload, so PHP, maybe you can't learn about it here. But if you wanted to learn about doing login brute forcing, you could try out this page right here. The DVWA is a very versatile app as far as learning about web app vulnerabilities, as I mentioned before. And yeah, if I'm happy that that people showed up to listen to me talk about this. We're going to, as far as the schedule for next week is concerned, we're going to be doing a HackerFrogs workshop session on SQL query language on Monday, and on Wednesday, hopefully I can hopefully we can do our PicoCTF review where we go through a bunch of the different challenges. Like if you have any questions about solving any particular challenge, please don't hesitate to leave a message in the group chat asking for help with a particular challenge. Where people in those in the group chat generally won't give you the answer outright, but they'll try to give you some hints as to what the answer is for any particular challenge that they've solved. Of course, they can't give you hints for anything that they haven't solved yet. But thank you very much for coming today, and until next time, have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.